It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Okay.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the head UMO Mount Olive College wrestling coach, Dan Willis. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for asking.
Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get involved in college coaching on the wrestling side?
Well, I always wanted to coach at the collegiate level, but I just didn't have a program near me. And I like the area that I live in. So Mount Olive started a program and I was still involved with the high school wrestling scene. And then the job opened up the second year. So I interviewed as a recommendation from one of the parents who had a kid there. So I ended up getting hired, and the rest is history.
What was it like wrestling at UNC Pembrooke?
I enjoyed it. I think the best thing I enjoyed were the friends I made. A lot of my teammates I still talk to today. So I tell kids all the time that that's probably one of the best experiences they'll have, is just the relationships they develop with people on their team.
What was it like coaching high school wrestling at EA Laney?
Well, I coached at Hoggard for 10 years, and then I got out of it for a couple of years and then went to Laney. And it's different than the collegiate level because, if they don't have youth experience, you're pretty much starting from ground up, with what you're teaching them. And, most of my teams wrestled year round, so we never really stopped. So it was a very rewarding situation, but definitely involved a lot of time though.
What were some of your accomplishments during your high school coaching time?
Well, I coached about 10 years at Hoggard. We were top 5 in the state the last 3 years. And then I think I coached about 7 or 8 years at Laney. And my last year we made the state dual finals, but unfortunately we lost.
What was it like transitioning from the high school wrestling to college wrestling?
Well, the biggest difference probably with college kids, other than being older, they come in with a certain amount of knowledge. So you don't start from ground zero and kind of work the way up. They all have a different style. Most of them have the basics down pretty good. You just kind of find out what they'd like to do and kind of coach them in their style. So it's I guess you're starting ahead of the game at the college level, and sometimes the smallest things can make the biggest difference when you get to a higher level.
What has it been like, obviously, to coach Division II and coach local kids?
Honestly, it's a dream. I pinch myself every morning because I couldn't pick a better job. There's really nothing that I think I would want to do more than this. So, fortunately, I get paid for it, and I get up with a purpose every day. And so I'm not getting up just to make a paycheck. Fortunately, I get up every day and I look forward to what I'm doing.
What was it like creating and founding the Port City Wrestling?
Well, I had a program called the Wilmington Warriors years ago when I first started coaching high school, and then when I got out of coaching from Hoggard, I started the Port City Pirates and kind of merged my old club and another club together, just kind of built a bigger one, and we just kind of ran with that. And it's just a different kind of coaching because there's no when the kids are wrestling, there's no girlfriend or boyfriends, there's no cars, no jobs, no this. The kids are just happy-go-lucky, and it's probably the most fun they should have in their career, because I tell parents all the time that having them like the sport is more than what they learn at that level, because if they don't like being in practice or going to practice, then they're going to fall off and they might not ever try it again. If they go in there and they're having a good time and enjoying it, then they're most likely to stick it out. And so when I coached youth wrestling, I was able to play more games and things like that with the kids, and they were always laughing, cutting up. So just a different kind of coaching, I guess.
Of course, how has, obviously, your wrestling business helped you in your college coaching career?
Well, they kind of go hand in hand. We have some fighters at our gym. I own one gym called Port City Sports Performance, but then we opened another one called Port City MMA actually just this month. And we have a couple UFC fighters, Bellator fighters, and they all have a wrestling background. So some of my wrestlers will train with them, and vice versa. So it's kind of a good mix. A lot of the kids on my team are from this area or not too far from here, so they can train at the gym with the other guys, and some of them want to live here in the off season. So it's really a good situation because they go hand in hand.
How is it like getting the job at UMO as the head wrestling coach?
Well, it's a lot of work. I found out right away that recruiting is a big part of it. The amount of time you'll spend on the phone or visiting or traveling or on the internet, interacting with recruits, is probably a full-time job in itself. And then, to go along with the practice and other responsibilities. But, sometimes you got to do the things you don't like to do, like cleaning mats and things like that to get the things that you want, and so it's a lot of work, but it pays off in the end. Like I said, it's something I love doing.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you have built for the wrestling program at Mount Olive College?
Well, I tell the kids right off the bat that we don't want cliques. We want to be one team. And I think it really starts with the foundation. If you don't have good kids, that are dependable, accountable, reliable, then it really takes away from anything you can do on the mat. And, the kids, they can have academics without wrestling, but they can't have wrestling without academics because they gotta keep their grades up. So, academics has to be a priority. And, and then when it comes to their social lives, most of them hang out with each other, rather than other places. So they're kind of a tight knit group. And, we like to keep it fun, in the practice room. We like to turn the music up and make it motivating. And, we want the kids to want to be there instead of feeling like they have to be there. So, it is a lot of work, but, you got to enjoy the work and the things that you're doing together.
Who are some of the teams that you face in the Conference Carolinas?
We have wrestled Queens University, we wrestled Lander University, and we wrestled Coker University. And we've had 3 so far. And then this coming Friday, we'll go to Belmont Abbey and we'll wrestle Limestone and Belmont Abbey there.
What is it like, obviously, wrestling Belmont Abbey and Barton College?
Well, Belmont's got a solid team, and Limestone, they got a solid team too. So, a lot of it depends on who shows up from which team, who's hurt, who's whatever. So, if we have our best lineup, I think we can be competitive with either one of them.
Of course, do you wrestle against Barton College in Wilson?
Barton, no, we do not.
What is it like, obviously, competing against some of those teams in your conferences?
Well, it's a very well-rounded conference. I don't really feel like there's any match that we go into, that we can take lightly or anything like that, because it's a very well-balanced conference. And I think Lander is definitely, making their way. But I think, the other teams, a lot of them depends on any given day and who shows up to wrestle. So, I think it's an exciting year for Conference Carolinas.
What does a typical wrestle meet look like as the head coach?
It's definitely a lot of strategy. When you coach high school, sometimes you wrestle, if you have a good team or a competitive team, you can get away with making a few mistakes here and there, but at the college level, you really need to compete for every point, not just in the individual matches, but in the overall match, and getting your bonus points for major decisions or tech falls or pins or things like that.
Of course, what are some of the future plans for Mount Olive Wrestling?
Well, obviously we're, adding women's wrestling next year. So that's a plan. We're always looking to upgrade our wrestling facility. The university got us a nice wrestling facility and we've done a lot of work to it. And so we're looking to, do more of that. And, we're just kind of looking to keep pulling in good recruits. And when I say that, I mean, good, well-rounded young men. So we're always looking to get better.
What's it like going to be next year, having both the women and the men wrestle?
Honestly, it'll be exciting. I think it'll be, I guess it'll put Mount Olive on the map as being a wrestling school, that they've made the commitment for men's and women's wrestling. I think it'll be more excitement for even the men's program. I think they'll, with strength in numbers and I think it's just, we'll have some dual meets where it'll be both men's and women's wrestling side by side. So I think it'll be kind of an exciting times for Mount Olive and I'm excited actually to see how it goes.
Was it going to be like, obviously, to bring the women's wrestling on the women's sports side to Mount Olive?
Well, I can speak for wrestling alone. I think it's great for the sport of wrestling. I think that at the university will, embrace it, but I've always felt like that wrestling changes lives and now it's changing women's lives, and I think a lot of these women are excited to get on campus and wrestle for a women's team because some of them wrestle for a boys team in their high school. So now they can wrestle on an all women's team. So, I think it'll be good good for the university, good for the sport of wrestling, and good for the kids that are coming to Mount Olive next year.
What does the recruitment process look like for prospective student athletes looking to wrestle in college?
In college period or in college of Mount Olive?
In college and period.
It's competitive. It's very, very competitive. There's the numbers in wrestling are growing every year, and then like I said, the way women's wrestling is growing, I like what things are done in college at the college level, but it's very, very competitive for kids. But there's a program out there for everybody, I believe.
Of course, when you're on the road, what do you look at in wrestlers in high school on the road?
When I'm recruiting, well, obviously we look at talent, and then probably the next thing I find out or check into is grades. And once we, obviously, establish they're a good wrestler and they have good grades, and then we start talking to them and getting to know them as a person, finding out maybe if we have the major they're looking for, and kind of getting to know if we're the right fit for them or if they're the right fit for us.
What happens, of course, on the official visit when you bring the prospective student athlete to Mount Olive College?
Well, the first thing they'll do, they'll go to the pool administration building, where an admissions representative will give them a tour of the campus. They'll show them the classrooms, maybe introduce them to a few teachers, professors, bring them over to Carnegie Arena, Pope Wellness Center, and just kind of give them a good look at the dorms of the campus. And then once their tour comes to a close, I'll come over and meet them and take them over to the wrestling facility and show them the wrestling room, introduce them to some of the wrestlers, and sit down and talk with them at the table for a little while.
Of course, on the official visit, what does it look like, obviously, seeing them go into Carnegie Arena and see where they're going to be competing each home game?
What is it like for them? I think it would be exciting for them. We've had a few of our wrestlers come and watch, and they enjoyed it. And, and it was nice to be able to have spectators this year. So, we weren't allowed to have them in last year, but I think it's nice to get them in there and let them see it and see what it will be like, before they make their decision.
What advice would you give high school athletes, both female and men, looking to wrestle in college?
Well, I would say definitely be ready to put in a lot of time and a lot of work, and that's where it starts, because that's what it boils down to, and kids being well balanced and being able to manage their time and things like that. And then once you have decided that's what you want to do, then, obviously you get into things like competitions, technique, strength training, things like that. So, it's a commitment that not every kid wants to make, but it's a very rewarding commitment in the end.
Can you talk about, of course, your championship wins and what the program has meant to you as being championship contenders?
Well, we're not there yet. We feel like we're competitive. We can compete with most teams in our conference, but I wouldn't go out and say we're there yet. So we're hoping to get there. There's teams that have established themselves like Newberry, UNC Pembrooke, Lander. There's a couple teams that have established themselves, and we feel like we're pulling in the right kids to get there. So, and until we do it, it doesn't matter what I say. So we're definitely striving to get there.
What advice would you give those college wrestlers, both men and women, looking to wrestle in college and then go on to the Olympics?
Well, and that's another, level of commitment. When we're talking about the Olympic level, a lot of people training for Olympics, they're college assistant coaches and things like that. But it's a huge investment and a payoff that might not happen. So, it's just that's a whole nother ballgame. And there are kids that make that commitment, and that's where you're either all in or you're all out.
What advice would you give future college coaches looking to get into college wrestling?
Pretty much like the wrestlers, be willing to put in a lot of time. And, I think at the college level, coaching, you definitely have to have a balance in your life. I've coached for a long time, high school, college, youth wrestling, and it all takes a lot of time, but I've learned how to balance my time a little bit and get the most out of everything you do. I utilize the people around me. When I first started coaching at the high school level, I tried to do everything myself, and it just took a lot of time. And, in 25, 30 years of coaching, I've got really good people around me that take a little bit of that time off me and kind of help me become a little more balanced in my overall life.
What advice would you give high school coaches looking to make that jump from being high school coaches to college coaches like you did?
Pretty much it's very similar to high school, except dealing with older kids. I would not discourage it. I would just say, learn as much about it as you can before you make that jump, or maybe even become a college assistant, and see if that's what you want to do.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media, along with the Mount Olive College wrestling program?
Well, our Mount Olive program, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, and we're on Facebook. And, I'm on Instagram, Matt Mandan 13. And I'm on Facebook also.
Thank you again, Coach Dan Willis, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with the Mount Olive College wrestling program.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Dan Willis, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.